Hi guys, welcome to Rosenfield 10. I'm Joe, and today I'm presenting another NFL Mock Draft 2024, this time without trades and post Senior Bowl. So let's see how everything shakes out. No trades, one round. We start with the Chicago Bears. They're going to take quarterback Caleb Williams out of USC. Now, if they do this, that means they've likely traded Fields, and I'm not sure where Fields goes. Wherever he goes will dictate whether, that team possibly drafts a quarterback in round one. Regardless, Fields is gone. We'll see as the draft moves on where he might have ended up. But with this pick, it seems unanimous. Caleb Williams, Chicago Bears. And they've got pick 9, so they'll be on the clock again shortly. At pick 2, we've got the Washington Commanders, and they're going to go with quarterback Drake May out of North Carolina. I don't think anything's changed. I think this seems like the way the Commanders should go, quarterback. Now, they may choose Jalen or Jaden Daniels over Drake May. I don't know. We'll see. That would be interesting. Be really interesting if the Bears took Daniels. And we still have the scouting combine to look forward to, so things may change. But in this scenario, Commanders get May. And with pick 3, New England goes ahead and grabs Jaden. So, Jaden Daniels, LSU quarterback, going to the Patriots. Top 3 quarterbacks are off the board. Nothing different so far. This seems like the consensus. At pick 4, the Arizona Cardinals, who also have pick 27. And the Cardinals are going to grab wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. out of Ohio State. Arizona, you're going to ride with Kyler Murray. Okay. He's not my favorite, and don't know if a quarterback's worth taking here at number 4, especially with the talent Harrison has. Good spot. Arizona should grab the best player and then consider a quarterback in 27th pick, maybe. With pick 5, the Los Angeles Chargers are going to get Brock Bowers, of course, out of Georgia, the tight end. It makes too much sense, especially now that Harbaugh's the coach. This seems like a spot, seems like the perfect fit, seems like the way they're going to go. Bowers doesn't fall out of the top 10 in this one. He's got his home with the Chargers. And now pick 6 with the Giants. This was a tough one for me, probably the hardest decision so far. The Giants could go left tackle Joe Alt, who I think is going to be an all-pro for years to come. He seems to me like as though the first can't-miss prospect. Bowers is pretty close to can't-miss. And as far as the Giants go, I think Alt is that guy. But in this mock, with the 6th pick, the Giants take Malik Nabers out of LSU. Malik Nabers is probably a number 1 wide receiver in any draft, except this one, with Harrison. So, the Giants don't let Nabers pass him by. And if the Giants would have taken Alt, I'm assuming Nabers would have still gone in the top 10. But there's so many needs for so many teams. So I don't think Nabers slips past the Giants. We got to go with this. Which leaves Tennessee at pick 7 to take Joe Alt, the offensive tackle out of Notre Dame. Joe Alt is the man. He's the surefire thing. I've had Olu Fashanu pegged to go to the Tennessee Titans. Don't know if they had their choice which way they'd go. In this scenario, they go with the overall top-rated tackle in Alt. And with pick 8, Atlanta drafts Michael Penix Jr., quarterback out of Washington. I think this would be a neat fit for Atlanta. Does this mean they didn't get Justin Fields? Yeah. Does this mean Zach Robinson thinks he can do something with Penix? Yeah, I think he thinks he can. I don't think there's a lot of difference between a guy like Jared Goff and a guy like Penix. So, would be the biggest reach probably in this draft. But Atlanta gets their quarterback. Now Chicago's up at pick 9. And their choice is easy, I think. Wide receiver, Rome Odunze out of Washington. This is a nice fit. You get your quarterback, you get your wide receiver. Chicago's on the move on offense. At pick 10, the New York Jets. We've got Olu Fashanu still on the board. And I'm going to say they go ahead and grab Talise Fuaga, the tackle out of Oregon State. That'll be a surprise. Fuaga's generally rated 3, and this would make him the second tackle off the board. You Jets fans like Fashanu better? Let me know. That's your top 10. At pick 11, we have the Minnesota Vikings, and boy, they could go in all sorts of directions, but I am told defensive line is the way they need to go, and they have a bunch of edge rushers who they may re-sign, they may not, but I'll take the sure thing for the Vikings with defensive tackle Jer'Zhan Newton out of Illinois. Vikings fans want defensive line, and they're going to get it with this pick. In my last mock, I had Newton falling pretty far, but he doesn't get past the Vikings here, and they get what they want. With pick 12, the Denver Broncos are going to take Bo Nix. I'm still locked on that. The Broncos don't have a second-round pick, so this wouldn't be considered a reach for the Broncos in their scenario. Needing a quarterback or wanting a quarterback and only having one pick in the first 2 rounds, this isn't a reach at all. I think it makes a lot of sense. With pick 13, the Raiders, did they get Justin Fields? It's possible. It's also possible that they just like what they have in the quarterback room right now. But they certainly like that Olu Fashanu, the offensive tackle out of Penn State, is sitting there. And that's the way the Raiders go at pick 13. One pick before my beloved Saints. And I feel a little bit of heartbreak here. I would have liked to have had Fashanu. But with pick 14, the New Orleans Saints go with offensive tackle J.C. Latham out of Alabama. The athletic, huge monster. I think he'll fit the new scheme well. And, yeah. You miss out on Alt and Fashanu, and Fuaga. But you get J.C. Latham, and that's pretty good. I think that fits great, actually. With pick 15, the Colts are surprised that edge rusher Dallas Turner is still on the board out of Alabama. I don't see this mocked a lot to the Colts. Turner usually doesn't fall this far in the draft, but it makes a lot of sense to me. If Atlanta's going to go quarterback, then, yeah, this is the spot for Turner. With the Colts, I debated on grabbing a wide receiver here. But Turner's a high-rated prospect, a top 10 guy. The Colts are happy to get them. Seattle at pick 16. Well, they go Troy Fontenot, the offensive lineman out of Washington. I was really debating on getting the center, Jackson Powers Johnson, here for Seattle. I think since Fatanu is versatile, and some people think he can play all across the line. It's a good fit for any team looking for an offensive lineman. I've seen Fontenot mocked to Seattle all the time. And in this case, it makes sense. There's still Jared Verse and Latu at edge rusher here. But I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger on the interior lineman. With pick 17, Jacksonville's going to stay in state and grab Keon Coleman. Now, the Florida State wide receiver is a highly rated player, but he sometimes slips into the bottom of the first and into the second round. I think Jacksonville's going to be in love with him and grab him. I think they'll be happy with this. With pick 18, the Cincinnati Bengals take offensive tackle Amarius Mims from Georgia. The Bengals want some offensive line help. There's a lot of players on the board that are really good, and I just seem to mock Mims to the Bengals all the time. He's a player I wouldn't mind the Saints grabbing. With this new scheme, I think Latham fits it better for the Saints, and Cincinnati gets a big offensive tackle. With pick 19, the Rams are the team that are going to take the first cornerback off the board. Shocking. Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo had the best Senior Bowl. The only questions anyone had about him were his ability to play press. He did it so well against the great wide receivers of the Senior Bowl that he's going to be the first cornerback taken. The Rams are stoked to have him all the way at 19. With pick 20, I debated back and forth for the Steelers' interior offensive line in general, cornerback, safety. I went ahead and grabbed Jackson Powers Johnson, the center out of Oregon. He does go in the first round, and the Steelers are grabbing him. Don't know if you guys are going to put him at guard or whatever, center. I think this is a good fit. With pick 21, I'm still stuck on Miami grabbing an offensive tackle. I love Jordan Morgan to the Dolphins, but Tyler Guyton is the most athletic offensive tackle. He might be able to play left tackle, but you got a left-handed quarterback there in Miami, so Guyton could just fit natural at right tackle. There'll probably be some movement on the offensive line for the Dolphins. Guyton is so talented and athletically gifted that, especially if given a little time, I'm pretty sure he'll develop on either side of the line. And, that's a change for me. But the Dolphins grab Guyton after a pretty good Senior Bowl. Pick 22, the Philadelphia Eagles. I always pegged them as getting a cornerback. I've been told they've got a lot of depth. And, linebacker is what they really need, but it's way too high to grab a linebacker here. So you could take a defensive back with some nice box qualities, or you can go ahead and grab safety. And I was tempted to give them Tyler Nubin out of Minnesota and call it a day. But I'll cut Philadelphia a break and give them cornerback Cooper DeJean, who projects as wherever you want to put him. And if the Eagles want a safety in the first round, I think that Cooper DeJean's ability is such that you pass on a true safety and you go ahead and grab this guy and you put him all over the field. That would be an insane pick for the Eagles because Cooper DeJean is, in my opinion, one of the best players in the draft. The Eagles would be happy to have them, I'm sure. With pick 23, the Houston Texans are going to stay in state and grab Byron Murphy out of Texas. It's been mocked a lot. And if Houston wants defensive line, they've got a lot to choose from here at the end of the first round. Murphy's their guy. It seems like a nice fit. I think that makes a lot of sense. Pick 24 to Dallas Cowboys. Well, shucks, man. I had Jackson Powers Johnson pegged to go to them. But after a strong Senior Bowl, he gets taken earlier. And the Cowboys are still serious about fixing the offensive line. I'm thinking that Graham Barton is an option here, quite possibly the pick. But Dallas takes a chance and goes with Zach Frazier out of West Virginia. Just 2 months removed from a broken leg, and he shows up at the Senior Bowl running sprints and playing well and looking like it never happened. And that's really the only question about Zach Frazier, is whether he recovered from his broken leg. And after 2 months, I think the Cowboys are pretty excited. I think he's one of the best interior offensive linemen in the draft. Dallas takes a chance. We'll see if they got it right. And one pick later at 25, Green Bay goes with Graham Barton. I'm tempted to get a cornerback for Green Bay a lot of the times. And offensive line is certainly worth a look here. Barton can fit a lot of spots, and so if the Packers draft him, they will have a player. And yeah, nice pickup. Dallas may have missed out on the Barton pick, but Green Bay gets him. The fans want it. You got it. With pick 26, Tampa Bay's running to the board, and they're grabbing Verse out of Florida State. This is a shock that he's here this late. As a matter of fact, Latu hasn't been drafted either. And Latu, to me, shows a lot of skill at the edge. Might not be the most athletic, but it's the injury concerns. And Jared Verse in state, I think he has better size, better athleticism. And his pass rush mix isn't lacking, I don't think. I think Jared Verse is a steal at 26 for my Saints' dreaded Buccaneers. Pick 27, Arizona's back on the board. And yeah, in a mock draft I did for the Saints, I had Arizona trading this pick for Marshawn Lattimore because they want a nice, solid Pro Bowl caliber cornerback. And who wouldn't want Marshawn Lattimore? He's 27 years old. He's got 7 years of Pro Bowl experience in the league. And it would be a nice fit for Arizona. Instead, they go ahead and grab cornerback Nate Wiggins out of Clemson. And Nate Wiggins is one of the best cornerbacks in the draft. And if you're going to go cornerback, that's a solid pick. So Arizona ends up finishing the day with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Nate Wiggins. Not a bad haul in the first round. With pick 28, the Buffalo Bills come up, and they're going with Brian Thomas Jr. There's a few wide receivers here worth considering, and I think Brian Thomas is going to be a complete wide receiver when it's all said and done. He's got so much skill, and I was very tempted to have a team way earlier take him, the Colts. They went with Dallas Turner instead at edge rusher. And now Thomas falls all the way to the Bills. They get their pick at wide receiver. I have this impression of the Bills and the Chiefs wanting wide receiver in this draft. And yeah, the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl, but Buffalo ends up getting Brian Thomas Jr. With pick 29, the Detroit Lions, who I often mock at getting Braylon Trice. I'm going cornerback in this instance because there's so many still left on the board. And it's Terrion Arnold out of Alabama. Once considered the best cornerback in the draft. And yeah, he's still a highly regarded prospect. And if he falls all the way to 29, I think Detroit's super stoked to get him. You guys need to, Detroit. Your defensive, your secondary coach that came over from the Saints. Uh, his name escapes me right now. The guy that Aaron Glenn, the guy that forever I'll remember as the guy that ripped off Aaron Brooks' helmet in the middle of a game. And then our offensive lineman, Kyle Turley, walked over to Aaron Glenn and ripped his helmet off after the play was over and threw it across the field. Turley got ejected. And Aaron Glenn became our secondary coach shortly thereafter. But he'll always be remembered to me as the guy who ripped a quarterback's helmet off and then got his helmet ripped off. You know, I always thought Aaron Glenn was okay as a secondary coach. And as a secondary coach for you guys, defensive coordinator, you know, I mean, I think that's where Detroit's struggling. I think if Dan Campbell was smart, he would go in a different direction in the secondary. Now you got a piece with Terrion Arnold. There. That's my advice for Detroit, who I consider Saints Jr., along with Atlanta. At pick 30, we're going for the Baltimore Ravens with Chris Jenkins, the defensive tackle. You can go and grab T'Vondre Sweat at this point. You can grab a quicker guy, but Chris Jenkins is really good at run defense, and he's got a motor. And I think he can be a nice fit for the Ravens. I really do. This might be the only mock that I've seen in the last couple of weeks that has Chris Jenkins being taken in the first round. There is an option here. You know, Darius Robinson, who I had as a third, fourth round projection. Darius Robinson, defensive end out of Missouri. He had a good Senior Bowl, and it was good. And the coaches there are in love with him. His measurables. He's the typical Saints type for defensive end. And the thing is, he can play all over the defensive line. And that versatility and his athleticism has him getting first round buzz. And I was debating on grabbing him for the Ravens here. He is the Saints type. And not a lot of people are saying he would be a 4-3 defensive end, typically. Some are saying, yeah, 4-3 on rundown, slide him inside on passing down. That's exactly what he is to me, Darius Robinson. But first round's a little too rich for me right now. Going from the fourth round to the first round, it sounds like something the Saints would do. If the Saints draft Darius Robinson with the 14th overall pick, let it be known by me that this is another Marcus Davenport type reach, okay? And I wouldn't agree to it. Jenkins is a great run defender. I think the Ravens would be stoked to have him. At pick 31, if the Chiefs lose the Super Bowl, they'll be picking at 31, and they're going to go ahead and grab Troy Franklin, wide receiver out of Oregon. It's good size, good speed, good combination of everything. I think he fits in the KC system pretty good. And, yeah, I would have had him get Brian Thomas if he was still here, but they pulled the trigger on Troy Franklin. And the last pick in my latest mock draft, if it's the big game winner, the San Francisco 49ers, then they are stoked to grab cornerback Kool-Aid McKinstry out of Alabama, still sitting on the board. And, yeah, San Fran actually can go a lot of routes. Any of you 49er fans are watching this, let me know what you would do if you win the big game and the board falls like this. Who would you take with the last pick? All right, that's my mock. I think the biggest shock would have been the Falcons taking Penix. That's a pretty big shock. And then Fuaga by the Jets. I would say that would be kind of surprising over Fashanu. The Vikings taking Newton that early. The Broncos taking Nix. I've seen it mocked more often recently, but yeah, I was first on that one. Let it be known. The Raiders getting an excellent pick in Fashanu there, and the Colts stealing Dallas Turner. Jacksonville staying in state with Keon Coleman's a big shock. Quinyon Mitchell being the first cornerback off the board shouldn't be a big shock. The Steelers take a center at pick 20. Miami takes a gamble on the athletic offensive tackle. Philadelphia grabs my favorite cornerback in the draft, who projects as a safety to them. He would be a nickelback for the Saints, and what a great player. Dallas shocking everyone by taking Frazier in the first round. Tampa Bay having Verse on the board when they pick. Buffalo grabbing Thomas. Baltimore shocking everyone with Chris Jenkins over T'Vondre Sweat, or, whoever else you got pegged as a great DT. I see Taylor slipping a little. And the big game participants end up with Troy Franklin and Kool-Aid McKinstry. So there you go. That's my latest mock. You guys let me know where I got it wrong and where you would do it differently. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to Rosenfield 10. I'll be doing several NFL mock drafts throughout the offseason. And this is a Saints channel, so if you are a Saints fan, you'll get a lot of that content as well. And until then, I'll talk to you later. Who dat?